It's time for some disassociated, stream of consciousness, unnoted rambling about a cartoon not for us.
So it's YouTube. Ah,
Uh,
yes. Motu fans, I do hope you understand that right now your cup runneth over.
oh, you've
Um,
got it so good.
yeah, you're gonna regret this in 10 years when things are back to being boring again. Um, so we're here to talk about He-Man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Before we get to it, I think we should, just mention. Sorry, it's been quiet.
yeah, I'll take
Oh
most
boy.
of the blame on this. I have not been in a good place. But we're
Ah,
hanging in there.
it's. I got malaise too. We've both been going through this shit. It's kind of been a rough time.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
I don't blame anybody if they're having a hard time of it, cause yeah, oof.
and sometimes we don't like trying to force the funny.
Yeah, it's I'd rather be funny on purpose well than funny for the wrong reasons.
Hmm. So just kind of a we're working on it. The next Commando Cody thingy is actually coming along kind of swimmingly script
hmm
wise.
Yeah, we'll be getting that done pretty soon. And so tonight, is there anything else you wanted to touch in on there?
Not really. I mean, we're going to talk He-Man. We're not really going to discuss Revelation because that's kind of. I mean, that was nice. I liked it. I thought it
Yeah,
was decently done.
I would say that Revelation, and I can sum it up really well. Revelation is what you should hope for in a continuation reboot.
Hmm.
It addresses the themes of the original. It ties into characters that don't get got a lot of play in the original, at least not a lot of play with respect. Most of the characters that get to shine in this were kind of the butts of jokes in the old one. Um,
And it was also it was one of those things where it's a reboot continuation that like it's following on from a Filmation He-Man, not the Filmation
yeah,
He-Man.
yeah. There's it's loose, it's good, it's fun, but
It
the
is, yeah, it's
and sometimes I forget people can't see tropes coming a mile away, and it's just like, yeah, of course it's going to be like this. You have to reintroduce the world in a way that makes the characters matter. Show that He-Man and Skeletor are important by showing their absence. Come on, people. Also,
yeah.
if somebody died in it and it's a cartoon about toys, do you people not understand what superheroes are? Death
Yeah,
is a
I will say
revolving door, people. Come on.
I will say I was way more impressed because everything I saw about it in the first just made me go, "Oh god, no." I'm not going to lie. The fact that Kevin Smith was involved just kind of made me think, "Okay, this is either going to be Robot Chicken awful or way up its own ass like the 2003 show," and I was wrong on both counts and I'm
No,
glad for it.
one of the things that I think did very well is that Kevin Smith was able to capture what made the old show, and played it straight in the flashbacks in a way that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's like that's the thing is like I've been going on Twitter rants about old '80s cartoons a lot because people appreciate them and I love attention. Um, and one of the things that I brought up about Thundercats is that I think the reason Thundercats has a hard time being adapted is because it's less a show and more of a Candle Cove type situation. More mass hallucination than television show. I mean, there was a show on the
Yeah.
screen and there was a show we experienced, and those are not the same thing. And the challenge with adapting a show like that is it's always going to fall short because no two people experience the same Thundercats, and it's
Yeah, I remember it being a distinct shock when it came on Toonami and I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen this in forever." Oh my god,
everyone
what the
has
hell
that
is this?
reaction. It's not what they remember, and it doesn't happen as much with Motu because Motu didn't was a little
Motu
bit.
was, it was the trailblazer. It was everywhere. Everybody watched it and
Yeah,
watched it religiously. We're old enough to remember that period.
You people don't understand. Like, people talk about fads, like the fads that I have seen come and go. Um, like people don't understand just how big stuff like Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, or Pokemon was the first time around.
Hmm.
Just like the cultural hammer that came swinging down, and Motu was exactly the same way.
And entertainment was a lot more, I don't know, for lack of a better term, monolithic. You didn't have a million options to distract you, which is, why every time I go on Twitter, I hear about some new YouTuber or Twitch streamer who's got 86 jillion followers.
Yeah. No,
You couldn't not hear about this stuff.
yeah, you had typically five television stations per town. Your major ABC, NBC, CBS, and then like a Fox affiliate, and
And
maybe,
PBS.
and a PBS, and like maybe you'd get like the Superstation from the Chicago area or whatever. Um, but unless you had cable, that was it. And
Yeah.
so like everybody watched the same cartoons. It kind of same television shows. When you were
Big
saying that,
old syndicated block cartoons.
hmm but the other thing I was gonna say, like when you were saying like old TV was another thing, is that it was kind of dumb.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that's true of like people talk about how stupid old cartoons are, but honestly, go back and watch live action television from the 80s.
Mm,
It's way less sophisticated than you remember, if you
yeah.
remember it at all. But no, Motu had a certain earnestness to it, and I think Revelation captured that well in the flashbacks. But the real prize is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which is a challenging name.
Yeah.
Already getting into that late run Transformers naming thing where like you don't well, which robots in disguise are we talking about here?
Yeah.
But leave that aside. I don't know if this is
Yeah, it's doing everything else the complete opposite of Transformers now.
yeah. I don't want to say this is a Beast Wars because it's not quite a Beast Wars, but
No, no, but it's in the same zip code.
yeah. I will say that it is remarkably similar to the types of changes I would have made when helming up a show of this
Yeah.
type, which takes a lot of the fun out of it, honestly. Just people really need to stop making good shows because then I can't tell how I would rather the show have been, which is my favorite way of engaging with media.
Rah, 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 rah.
No, it's not even that. It's just me coming in with my little hat and like, yeah, that was fun, but imagine if we could make it just a little bit better. It's like,
What if we give it the old razzle dazzle?
yeah, script doctor. I will do that for money if people want to pay me. Um,
We did it for years.
yeah, but yeah, it's well. First off, I just want to start that the first thing that really caught me about the show is it is buttery smooth with that animation, just
Yeah.
pretty. The way Krona moves and his facial expressions and the kind of like slight waggle of his jaw that they do to give him a little bit extra character and kind of foreshadow things,
Yeah.
delightful. I love it.
Evelyn's motions are just buttery smooth. Just
And her facial expressions are great. She looks like the girl from The Craft.
mm,
Let's see.
blanking.
Uh, let's see. Oh, Veruza Balk. Yeah, she's got that. She they like sculpted her to look kind of like her, I think, and she's just got these amazingly over the top expressions and these great evil grins and
Got that
laughs.
DreamWorksy. It's like a DreamWorksy thing, but just kind of smoothed out. And
Yeah, and just very pretty. And I love that they picked my favorite aesthetic for Motu, which is not actually the original Motu aesthetic. It's when they do the little like SD figures where they're like 30% leg and 60% torso.
yeah,
Where they
yeah,
get little teeny barbarian legs, and then of course Evil Lynn comes sweeping in after during the character design process. It's like, oh, you're going with the short legs, yeah, good choice, good choice. So you're not going to use all that leg length that's just here. So yeah, I'm gonna no, I'll tell you when I've had enough.
80% leg, 20% torso.
Yeah, apparently on Eternia, the way that women grow is like they grow to a certain height, and then like from then on out, it's just all leg. Just the legs just keep going, and like nothing else changes. We don't see any old ladies. It's probably because they're so high up you can't see them. Just mistaken for trees. Um, no,
That's why you never saw the queen.
yeah, yeah, no. It does disguise the fact that it has that CGI show cast of a dozen thing going.
Hmm.
But yeah,
It is a show that is it's crafted. They clearly thought this out. They know, past Motu stuff, but they don't. There is a line between making a reference for world building and for fun and making a reference to make up for the fact that you don't have a goddamn story. We've seen a lot of the latter as of late.
well, I thought the early on they made a joke about Modulok, but they reworked
Yeah,
it into being a joke about a sport called that.
it's too complicated. And the
Yeah,
hands and feet thing. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
that's clever. That's
yeah.
cool. That's good.
But like,
And like there's just no there's a bunch of little stuff and all that because apparently like Cronus was Trapjaw's original name.
hmm
Well, air quotes original.
right. Yeah, that was one of the ones that they assigned to him later on. I liked the connection with making each one of the main heroic masters connected to one of the villains,
Except for Crass so far.
except for Crass.
I'm hoping she gets a rival soon.
Oh, I'm sure Crass will get a rival soon
Oh
because
yeah.
like they haven't introduced Merman yet, or like
Hmm.
Stratos or anybody. So we're probably going to see lot of new masters, which is one thing that I was kind of proud of. It's like one of my favorite things is when they go back to the first little bits of punchy material, the package blurbs.
Hmm.
Like how for years, like we all knew that Thundercracker was a had his doubts about the war, even though he never said anything about it because his most memorable thing was on his package.
Yeah.
They finally take the whole concept of Masters of the Universe as a concept, as a title in the universe, and heroic masters and evil masters, and their little titles that they have, and they actually play with it for
Hmm.
once.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good way of like building that world building up. Has a lot of things that I very much appreciate in a kid's cartoon. I like me
It
a
is
good
incredibly toyetic.
incredibly toyetic. Love me a transformation sequence. Love me a stock animation, a stock signature attack move.
I will say that I that is one of my I have a few mild criticisms. What's it? Let me try that again. Mild criticisms of the show. I don't even smoke or drink, and then somehow I still pull that shit off. One of the I feel like it relied a little too heavily on the JRPG long stock animation of the attack. I kept
Okay.
waiting. I kept waiting for Bahamut to show up at some point.
Oh, I did like that they called it out though. Oh, that took a while.
Yeah, oh, the entire Snake Mountain thing with the microphone.
Oh, that was a great bit. I loved that.
I really do like one thing I really appreciate was the build up of the villains.
Oh yeah.
They keep them fairly threatening, fairly, and then oh, you boosted up the heroes. Now you boosted up the villains. Now you've gone from Keldor being evil jerk who's kind of a jerk and kind of snarky to Skeletor. Now
Skip.
Skeletor is very Joker. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
This is a very jokery Skeletor, and I find it very funny that the most jokery Skeletor we've ever had is the one who isn't
Is
voiced by Mark Hamill.
but they are
Good
playing.
move.
They are playing on the best part about Skeletor is that he is a sarcastic little bitch.
He is a campy son of a bitch.
Yeah, and
He wants an audience.
oh, he's just chewing the scenery. It was inspirational.
Oh, it was
I
great.
yeah, that's the type of villain I love to watch. That's the type of villain I love to write.
And he's threatening. I mean, they've managed to keep him threatening, and he feels like a legit threat, but he's also He's he's just fun. He's
He ha-
fun to watch and listen to.
he has that just that the part that makes Skeletor work isn't just that he's funny, it's that he knows he's funny. And he doesn't consider that to undercut his sinisterness at all.
No.
Like his like if you one of the things that I love about the old show is like basically just him and the other evil masters in Snake Mountain like just sniping at each other because like it's Skeletor just throwing out these chains of schoolyard insults, and then just when he gets tired of someone kicking them down the stairs or like throwing them through a trap door. I mean, he's the worst boss ever, but it's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
And they keep that with him. Only now it's merged with some actual menace,
Hmm.
which is another thing that I can say is a positive comparison towards Beast Wars because he does have a very like Beast Wars Megatron level of charisma.
Which is
Like
funny because Beast Wars Megatron is among the cast.
who's David voicing?
He's Cringer.
Oh God, why did I not notice that? Dang.
Well, because it's not a voice we hear. Honestly, it's not a type of voice you hear out of David Kaye all that often anymore.
Yeah, yeah. But
He's playing a daddy.
mm,
He's Daddy Cat.
I think it's interesting that both
He's the father
reboots.
figure of this one, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that both reboots wound up casting Cringer in the role of a father figure.
Hmm.
Um,
It was
and
kind of weird the whole time. I'm sitting there going, why did they keep with Cringer? What? And maybe the name reveal thing came about a little too late, but again, really minor thing. There
yeah,
is a reason he's called Cringer, despite the fact that he is not a coward.
right. The I one of the things that I think is neat, and it's one of the things that is required for this type of shift in the way that KidVid works, and that is one of the things that this show that my interest in in the show is about is like it's very clearly Motu finally adapting to how KidVid has changed.
Oh, God, yes.
Um,
Yeah, I will say that for the past 30 years, maybe less if you don't want to talk about, the new adventures of He-Man. Even though that Skeletor does have a lot of this Skeletor in it,
yeah,
He-Man's big rotting albatross carcass hung around its neck has been the fact that that modern He-Man, has been beholden to old He-Man,
hmm,
while simultaneously and at the same time being incredibly embarrassed of old He-Man.
yeah,
It wants to be taken capital S seriously, but not really change anything about the old show.
yeah,
And that has ruined it for
yeah.
30 years.
And the thing is, and it's the thing, it's because it's not willing to be what old He-Man was, which was a brilliant series of very charming toy commercials
For children.
for children. And like if it like one of the things that you notice in various reboots is almost there's almost never an opportunity taken to invent a new character.
Mm-hmm.
Like no, there's like lore characters, but lore characters don't count.
No.
I'm not talking about people there to fill in the lore and great ancient
Provide a
kings and
plot
shit.
point.
I'm talking about this is a person and they have a highly specialized robot arm and we have named them after the thing that they do, which is
Mm-hmm.
what you get in frickin' He-Man. And admittingly, these are all technically the old characters, but they've been so rebooted that they're basically, new.
It's not
Um,
like Ram Man had a deep character,
no, he was the
ever.
kind of dumb sidekick character. You
And
had a
meanwhile, Ram Mam, great name, I love that. She's fun. It took me a
yeah.
while to notice that she has kind of like a weird lavendery pink skin tone.
Oh, I noticed that immediately.
I mean, it was just I mean, I think it was just the lighting for a lot of it that it took a little while for
Yeah.
me to really, for that to really rock with me.
The show
and I like that.
does it. The show's palette is its own, but sometimes it really does lean into that old school filmation color palette, which, like, one of
Oh,
the things
that's
that made She-Ra, the Netflix She-Ra, remarkable was how close it was able to look like old school filmation for the backgrounds.
I
Because
really want to briefly go into the technicals. I really want to say that I like what they've done with the color palettes in this show because the
yeah,
normal characters, everybody is, I don't want to say desaturated, but their colors are more muted. They're a little
hmm
lighter. They're not as rich. They look good. They're not, they're not colorless or anything,
yeah,
but they are largely, kind of muted, kind of desaturated, kind of earthy.
yeah.
And then when the power-ups happen,
Oh,
they
that's
they
when
just
they get.
crank that saturation, and it really sells it a lot more.
Oh, especially for the bad guys with their wonderful Halloween color palettes,
Oh
man.
yeah, how Cronus, you've got this Cronus who's this kind of stony, mossy green in general, and once he goes to Trapjaw with a mouth like a Langolier, which is which actually works.
Hey, if you're gonna have a guy named Trapjaw whose whole thing is that he's got a big, nasty, bitey mouth, you might as well make it the biggest, nastiest, bitiest mouth you can
Make
do.
go with the lang, but no, his skin tone goes neon mint green,
Yeah, like straight
and
to
it's
like
great.
that like Dayglow like Frankenstein poster kind
Yeah.
of green, and you get like that really bright orange and red with Beastman.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like his original form is mostly kind of brownish gray with like just hints of orange at the hands.
Evil Lynn gets loads of purple.
Mm-hmm.
Extra goth Morrigan, Evil Lynn.
Yeah,
I saw I saw
she's
that with all
fun.
the bats, and it's just like that's Morrigan. That is Morrigan.
Oh
That is
well,
Morrigan with less boob, but it's
uh,
still Morrigan.
I mean, who's going to go and borrow from such a thing as Darkstalkers for their character villains? Who would who would see that as an aesthetic or conceptual inspiration? Such
Oh, I don't know.
oh,
Hmm.
oh, but
I really appreciate how it kept a lot of it keeps the elements. It keeps the gray skull. It keeps the chaos. It keeps, but then I like that Skeletor halfway through the show. And it was probably a little late to say that there's going to be mild spoilers, but we're not gonna
yeah,
spoil. Skeletor gives up on Grayskull halfway through this series.
yeah,
It's no
he's
longer the prize. Cause and you know what? That's great. You can only do so much with that.
right, and yeah, I mean he's got other schemes, he's got other plans. He got some nice thematic mirroring that goes on with the way that the characters' powers work and the
Mm-hmm.
way that they're set up with the Havoc Gray Skull duality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's all fun. It's just interesting to see something that it's actually like, yeah, this is going to be He-Man, but it's going to actually be with the intent of having, trying to draw in a new audience.
To try
Which,
and sell it to kids.
yeah, so we're gonna give Adam some pants. Yeah,
Well, we're gonna make him a kid. He's a kid. That's
that's the thing is like, and I have a little theory I've thrown out about this that like basically when you had the Advertoons, most of them they were inventing a new genre.
mm-hmm.
It's because
Yeah,
like
for those who might not know or not around, He-Man was basically the first piece of advertainment
it,
when Ronald Reagan hit deregulation. Before then, shows could not be about a product to sell.
yeah, I think Pole Position technically hit first, but I mean it was
Mm.
like in that first wave of them.
Well, nobody remembers pole position.
Right.
But no, the changeover was basically, Krusty the Clown? That was what television used to be like for children. You stop the show dead to do a blatant to the camera commercial for this piece of product you can sell, and you'll be the hit of your neighborhood, and women will like you, except you're a child, so that doesn't matter, but kids will admire you.
Yeah.
And Reagan turned that around and said, nope, you can't do that shit no more. You can't directly advertise your product during that entire block of your show, but your show can be a sneaky commercial for it.
Yeah. The way that the timeline worked is like that's what happened in the 50s. Then in the 60s, I think whoever it was that made Sugar Bear made a series of cartoons about cereal, and that was a bridge too far.
Yeah,
And
we
then,
riffed one of those
yeah,
for a
and
while.
then parents groups got up in arms, and then like the 60s through the 70s, there's no money in kids cartoons because no one can make merch off of it,
Which is
basically.
where you get the swamp of dire Hanna Barbera Drek.
Right. And so Reagan unhooked some of the horses, but he didn't like fully let them start addressing kids directly. But what winds up happening is like then you've got all these writers who are now having to write these shows that are just for one thing action adventure cartoons, which before then it's like you literally like the only thing they had to use as a template was Johnny Quest, which
Hmm.
I swear is why like half the 80s like advertising cartoons, the heroes are manly men of science
Yeah.
because it's just like Mask is like basically the Johnny Quest thing with more people. But they do
Centurions
this.
is three race bannons.
It just Centurions is three race bannons. Yeah, you get a lot of that. But everything else they're having to go off of like, well, what are they doing in the other stuff that kids are into, which was all like
Why are
genre
they in
TV.
space? There's no reason for them to be in
Being
space.
But like the idea of teenagers is the television idea of teenagers at the time.
Hmm.
Like they look like 30 year like they're drawing 30-year-old actors to play 16-year-olds. Cuz they don't know cuz they're all just TV people that are getting these jobs and they're just like, well, like what are teenagers like? Well, we've written for Welcome Back Cotter, so we'll have to use that as our framework. And and like as they start to figure out that kids actually want to see like kid heroes, you start to see things like youthtening up, but like that really like the teenage superhero thing was not a huge thing on television until the Ninja Turtles and the Power Rangers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before then, the heroes were almost always adults and they had like a kid sidekick that they dragged along.
Or ambiguously adulty enough, you know.
Yeah. Like you would get there were exceptions. I mean, you had your mystery kids genres and you had your
You
Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
you had your Captain N,
Yeah, you had your Captain N, but for the
but
most
he was
part,
surrounded by adults.
yeah, but he was surrounded by adults and he was still basically an adult. But you
You know.
didn't get into the situation like where nowadays it's not unusual to see a team of like literally 12-year-old superheroes.
Yeah.
That they would not have thrown that to us in the 80s. It just didn't occur to people. Um, So now, instead of like technically in the old Motu, these characters were all supposed to be about that age anyway. They were all supposed to be 17 or 18.
Mm.
Even though they all looked like they were, like I said, 35. Like you cannot look at like Prince Adam and think that he's anything but like in his 30s.
No.
But according to the lore, he's a kid. So yeah, whatever. Only now, like they can actually, they don't have to use the same like rotoscoped animation for everyone because they're not the
And the same
last
toy mold for everyone.
in the same toy for everyone because they're not advertising the exact same toy, and also they're not the last remaining U.S. animation studio anymore. Like
Wow,
people
we've
make fun
gone
of,
far afield as usual.
hey, that's look, I've got ADHD and a number of
And
other
that's
things.
what they're here for.
Yeah,
Digression.
digression. Yeah, you're gonna follow my chain of thought, but I am eventually winding my way back to like the fact that they youthened up the kids in this. Um, in like Duncan isn't a 40-year-old dude with a mustache. He's you know,
I like Duncan, but I have a particular disassociation thing going with Duncan, and this is not none of this is a complaint. This is just
yeah,
my observation of the way I think of things.
yeah,
Duncan is voiced by Anthony Del Rio. I
okay.
like Anthony Del Rio, but he is the voice of Pit from Kid Icarus Uprising and Smash Brothers.
Oh, I see.
And Pitt has all those same mannerisms, that kind of flummoxed, anxious,
Oh,
slightly panicky, and That voice is coming out of the most Samus Aran armor I have seen since Samus Aran.
I know. I
So
was
I've got
gonna
a
comment on his wow, he is totally a Metroid fanboy because he is wearing
yeah.
Samus's
So I've
armor.
got this double Nintendo going, and it and just like I like it. I like the design. I mean, there's a reason Samus looks good. It's a good design, and I
Hmm.
like his power set, and I like the character. But the entire time, I'm just waiting to hear, as he's about to face death, I never learned how to read!
Oh
That is an
man.
actual line from Kid Icarus Uprising and Smash, in fact, when he does the little, fly, Team Rocket's blasting off again, fly away,
Oh,
he actually shrieks out, I never learned how to read!
huh. Okay, that's wild.
Go watch a playthrough of Kid Icarus Uprising. I think you would really enjoy it
Yeah.
because they do not shut up the entire time. It is Pit and Lady Palutena, and the villains are back talking each other the entire time.
Yeah, there's I've seen some clips of it. There's some the Hades is or Pluto is actually like really Tim Curry-ish.
Oh, he is incredibly Tim Curry.
Yeah, but yeah, it's all the kids get themselves like a little chunk of the power.
And they get cool, and they get really. I like the interpretations of a lot of like again, Ram Mam. She's got really great interpretation of that really basic gimmick of smacking things.
Yeah, I like the big crystal helmet. Yeah,
Yeah, the crystal helmet's really nice. I love the rockets on the back of the helmet.
yeah, no, it's pretty
And just
cool.
like the combination of the pinball move, and she's got those bungees that she uses to rocket herself forward.
Yeah, it's certainly like I'm sure someone's going to complain that she's not a kind of dim-witted chunky dude with spring legs, but I'm not that person.
No, no, no. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I had the Ram Man toy, and he was one of my favorites just because I just like going pop and knocking things over with him.
Yeah,
But he was far from a compelling character, and he wasn't super cool. It was just that really. He was the fidget spinner of his day.
hmm,
You just shtick, pop, pressed him down,
yeah,
pop him open. Pressed him down,
yeah.
pop him open, and that kept you going for half an hour.
I will say that Mattel had better be ready to fulfill the promise that it has made to me with those battle bones. Um, which is that I'm going to get a version of that in plastic with transparent and bony goo because I
And
like that
slime
combination.
inside.
Yeah, I like that.
There best
And
be slime inside.
yep, or at least the convincing illusion of slime. Um, and the other thing is that like if they don't make like a little like virtual pet Furby type thing with the Orko, they're just leaving money on the table.
I do like this interpretation of Orko. I wasn't sure how to take it, but it does a really good job of kind of splitting the difference.
Yeah,
Like he's clumsy, but like he's not. It keeps the clumsy. It keeps the things don't quite work, but it's not because ha ha he's a doofus. No, it's because it's a physical thing. There's a very good reason for it, and it looks like we're going to see him work around it now.
yeah. Well, I mean that was one of the other lost bits of lore from the original show that they people forget about all the time is that Orko's supposed to actually be like legitimately a really powerful wizard in his home
Yeah.
dimension where the magic works different.
Mm-hmm.
And he just doesn't have his little he's supposed to have this little amulet that lets him use his powers the way they're supposed to work, but he lost it in the old show. They had an episode about it with flashbacks
Yeah.
because the show had to take in any order, so anything that happened in the character's backstory they would tell in the form of a story in the story. It's really clumsy.
Yeah, he was supposed to be a good magician,
Right.
and he was just a turning his magic works differently. That was one thing when I was watching Revelation. I was kind of like, I appreciate that you're going for the emotional beat there, and that works for this. But I can't help but remember that, so it's like,
Yeah.
again, minor. that's continuity nitpicky for a continuity that technically does not exist.
Yeah, I mean
But
it's
still, you know,
yeah,
the needs of the story outweigh the needs of pedantry over an 80s
yeah,
shit cartoon.
yeah. The thing sometimes if it's a good change, you just got to make a change to the way things work,
Yeah.
and just kind of pretend that things were always that way.
I would say that pretty much all the changes they've made to this are good changes.
Hmm.
There's a couple storytelling things that I feel like, they were introduced and we were told them, but we were never really given any reinforcement for. But maybe that's next. Because the whole idea that King Randor is a bad king, that his grief over the loss of his brother and his son has made him a hard ass, and it's causing problems in the city of Eternos.
Right.
And we hear about it through Tila, but we don't really get any backing up for it. But it looks like the ending of this current season is maybe setting up,
Yeah.
actually showing us the bad parts of his reign, aside from just him being kind of a hard ass.
Right. Well, I do have and mind you, this is praising with faint damnation. My only concern is that complaint is that while overall the aesthetics are very nicely updated and used, um, there's just some of the tech is not as stylish this time around.
Yeah,
I
I
I
do kind of wish it was a little more swoopy.
I miss the flying sort of gargoyle scooters, and
Yeah.
I miss the sort of gothic gargoyliness of everything, where stuff had faces carved on it for no reason. Again,
Oh,
why?
your vehicles had very animal shapes.
Yeah, and again, I wonder why I, of all people, would find this a particular sticking point, given the way I design things.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
yeah,
just even it doesn't even really evoke any of that stuff. It doesn't
right.
need to be, a bird. Which actually they did that with like the Master Sword. Why
Yeah,
did I call it the Master Sword?
the
That's Zelda.
the power sword. The power
Yeah.
sword does have that logo on it that, depending on how you look at it, it looks like either a skull or a bird, which is pretty
Which is a
cool.
brilliant piece of work there.
Yeah, very nice piece of graphic design. It's just I just kind of wish some of the vehicles looked more like more like animals, more like stuff.
Or just at least evoke the shape a little better.
Yeah, a little bit more of
Because
that. That
I look at some of those sky sleds, and all I see is just that thing that that half a donut Darth Maul was riding on. It's just not very inspiring.
Yeah, it's actually reminded. Yeah, it's like there were some vehicles in what was it, Spiral Zone, that looked like that too. Like one of the things that was big with '80s action figure people is they always wanted to stick an action figure in the middle of a wheel.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, it's like, or you don't, like I said, and we're gonna tie this back to Transformers again because that's our wheelhouse. It was a thing that Beast Machines did really well with the Viacon designs.
yeah, yeah,
Like you would get, like you had a motorcycle that would evoke this kind of hornet. Jets would, really look like birds of prey,
hmm,
and they wouldn't necessarily have eyes and heads. Several of them did, but several of them were just kind of evocative of an animal rather than
right.
looking like a mechanical animal.
Well, but looking like a mechanical animal is awesome too.
Oh yeah,
We love Stridor in this house.
like I said, I'm just saying that's a thing that you could have done. You could have stylized it up a little more.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
also, just to kind of grouse it, that was a time when Transformers did that kind of thing.
yeah. I have a feeling that the reason it's probably like that for the vehicles is because most likely the vehicles were done by show people because the toy people were not anticipating making any.
I don't know. I felt like the way okay, of vehicles. Yeah, yeah, probably.
The characters they were expecting to make figures of, that's why they look all
Mm,
toyetic. But the
yeah,
vehicles are very basic and serviceable, probably because they weren't anticipating making actual vehicle toys.
or they just weren't going to be ready, or
Right. Um, that is one thing that I will say that I one thing that I do love about Motu Revelation. Going back to that, is it is completely unashamed of OG Motu's stupid ass vehicles.
Yeah,
Just
the
like
Bashosaurus.
they use the
They used the
Bashosaurus in it.
Bashosaurus, for God's sake.
I cheered when the Bashosaurus came on screen. I want you to know. I cheered for the Bashosaurus. It's
I
like
love the Rotons, Rotors, whatever those are called.
Rotons, yeah, the Rotons, I think is what they're called. And but yeah, I mean, it would not like the only thing that was missing at that point was like them doing like the Dragon Walker, which
Yeah,
was just
I
I
had that. I
I
had that toy. We loved
yeah.
that toy. It was garbage. It barely worked most of the time, but we loved it because it spun around. It went grrr, and the thing spun and it knocked over figures, assuming that the gear didn't get off track and it just sat there going not
Well,
going
like
anywhere.
one thing that like there are
And it
certain
sucked up batteries so bad.
oh yeah, and that was back when they're like everything used like C's and B's and D's. Like before everybody just decided that the AAA was the way to go.
And gammas and
But yeah, it was just like there were entire classes of vehicle that 80s toy manufacturers were just trying to convince us were viable. Bridge
mm,
walkers, that was one of them.
yeah,
VTOL jets, people really
yeah.
like those. Um,
The Havoc from GI Joe. I loved that toy. I had that toy. I loved it, and it is the dumbest vehicle design. It was one of the dumbest vehicle designs in GI Joe history.
is that the wide
And
one? Is that the
it's
wide
no,
tank?
it's the long tank, but it's the one where there is a gunner on top with the big two giant cannons that kind of lifts up, but he is thoroughly exposed,
Oh,
toes to head, completely exposed up top. And the show always depicted that as the pilot seat, despite the fact that there was like there was a canopied driver's compartment up front. It's a
that
big
was
green thing. It had a hover car in the back. It was neat, but it was one of the dumbest vehicle designs ever. But
oh
I
yeah,
loved it.
but there they would always have something where like a figure was like sitting in a chair and there was a wheel around the chair.
Mm,
That was like in everything. Um,
Buzzbore.
yeah. Um, and then Buzzbore, the thing from Spiral Zone. I'm pretty sure Centurions had at least one of them.
Probably.
And then again, there was the like just the completely irresponsible VTOL craft, the flying car, and and anything that was like the trouble bubble, because a lot of people
Yeah.
tried to do it's like it's a flying vehicle where your top is covered and your bottom is completely exposed.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there were some early like little like personal jetpack things in the 70s that they tried to make work that looked like that. But even if you got that technology working, your soldiers are going to be flying over the enemy with their
It's just a
butts
good thing you've got that.
exposed.
If you, it's a good thing you've got that flight stick where it is because you just need one beetle to whack into your groin while you're doing, Mach 1, and that'll end that flight real fast. You better
But
hope you got good shin guards on, my pal.
I'm just like, you're just asking every single member of the good guy team to use their painful but non-lethal laser blasters directly on your crotch every time you fly over. It's just not viable.
Okay, so yeah, so new He-Man Motu needs more ridiculous vehicles.
More ridiculous vehicles. Other than that, I mean, let your kids watch it. The
Yeah,
devil's not involved. It is a minus. I admit, but I can
not
guarantee
today,
you
Satan. Not today.
I can guarantee you that there's nary a bit of Satan in the whole thing. And it looks like it's going to be.
It is just refreshing to. It is both refreshing and infuriating to see a nostalgia line for something that from when we were kids be so unabashedly throw out what doesn't work. I mean, they got rid of this. They got rid of the secret identity. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even be. They like kind of left it for a little bit, but that was all. They it was there for. It was relevant for an episode, and it wasn't even a secret identity.
It was more like, yeah,
He doesn't know I'm alive yet, so let me go see him in my identity to see how he would react to me.
yeah,
And it was just. It is so nice to see a nostalgia property finally decide. Okay, Ninja Turtles Rise of the Ninja Turtles did that too, and goddamn did that one get screwed over.
Ninja
I love
Turtles
that
has done
show.
a lot of reinventions of itself over the years. They're
Yeah,
pretty wild, though. You have to give it that.
yeah,
Um,
Ninja Turtles has been good, but Ninja Turtles is also a later thing, and it kind of thrived on reinvention.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
But it
it's
is, but something 80s, something so incredibly, distressingly, soddingly 80s as He Man.
yeah,
Finally break that chain of take us seriously, and you know what? No, let's do something for today's kids. That was what made Transformers successful from the year, well, from Beast Wars up through, nigh on the 2010s,
yeah.
2015.
Right through the end of Prime.
No, I'd say through the end of Robots in Disguise,
Robots
the
in Dis-
second one.
Robots in Disguise. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because, that was the one that I'd say Optimus Prime was maybe in about 20% of that show,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and there was no Megatron at all.
Yeah,
Like, that was a plot, that was occasionally a plot point. Megatron was not around.
yeah. No, it's like at least it's some them trying something new, and the thing is like I'm to people who are like this isn't my Master of the Universe. You know what? That's fine.
That's the point.
That's the point. But this is going to be what keeps your Masters of the Universe going another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is this if this works? Um,
Like, y'all needed the WWE wrestling figures to continue to finance those nostalgia toys that are not selling now in
right.
Walmarts today.
Yeah. Which is, again, not a bad use of marketing and a real pity because
No.
those are some fine action figures. I very nicely designed.
But no, this is what's going to keep He-Man as a concept properly funded. You can only recycle the old so many times. We're already hitting that point with Transformers where do you go from here? We've already made basically as good an Optimus Prime cartoonish style as you can get.
Yeah, it's
We're gonna have to move on at some point, y'all.
yeah, and the other thing is, and this is something that I think is a trap for a lot of franchises. Is that sometimes like franchises will have like one thing that works and they keep trying to do that over and over and over again. They become victims of their own success.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's better to have just a bunch of sort of middling, sort of weird side reboots to kind of loosen things up.
Mm-hmm.
Get the creative juices flowing. Because even when they go back to the original stuff, they'll have new stuff to stir in, and at least it'll be interesting. I mean, how many times can you buy the main six main six masters?
Yeah.
Um, at least now they'll have an entire like stock of new character costumes to sell.
Yeah. And all that, and if it's successful, then they're going to want to fund more nostalgia crap.
Yeah,
This is the live action Transformers movies thing again
yeah.
on a way the hell smaller scale. But yeah, those movies, which are not good, funded so much nostalgia stuff.
Yeah,
You kind of need that living, increasing new child audience. Otherwise, you're Thundercats.
oof, poor Thundercats. Whatever it was.
Or your Tiger Sharks.
Man, Tiger Sharks is just that was the one that got like robbed because that was the one that was actually fun.
Yeah, but it was on between Karate Cat and Street Frogs, and who gave a shit?
I gave a shit. I gave a shit. Oh, Octavia. Anyway, yeah,
But
I
yes, overall, really good. I'm looking forward to see season two. It is a light, breezy watch.
yeah, it is.
I
Um,
I kind of expected to kind of watch an episode or two, but no, I just kind of plowed right through it pretty nicely.
yeah, no,
It moved at it moved at a really good pace. Nothing felt rushed. It had enough I mean, it's doing that thing where we set up everything is terrible at the end of the series. How are we gonna? It's cliffhanger.
yeah,
It
but I
ends
mean,
on a cliffhanger. That's not a spoiler. That's just how this shit goes
that's
now.
just how cartoons do.
That's how cartoons usually do. But now in the age of Netflix, when yeah, this is totally how it's gonna go. But no, it's a light. It is a light, fun, breezy 10 episodes.
Yep.
It's really well produced. They did not, I grouse a little about the amount of stock footage, but it never feels super gratuitous.
Hmm.
They clearly didn't cheap out.
Yep. And
It's they reinterpreted everybody with a lot of care, kind of taking okay what makes this character interesting and working with it. It is going to be interesting to see where Tila goes from this.
yep.
I'd say she probably had the hugest rework. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
it all makes sense. She is still Tila. She is also the sorceress. That is her code name.
Eh,
That is her power up name, sorceress,
yeah.
which fits with
But
the
I
old
mean,
lore.
hmm just finally doing something with it
You
instead of
know,
teasing it forever. Um, and I mean, this is what I'll say about the show. Now I got to figure out what scale of trap jaw I want to buy. Cause I want me
yeah,
a Langolier mouth trap jaw.
yeah. If there's a decent figure trap, I mean, I haven't bought a He-Man figure. Um, I think the last He-Man figure I bought was like a flip shot from a Big Lots, and that was
Yeah,
only
yeah,
so
because
you could work out some 3D modeling stuff for accessories.
yeah, that was so I could take some measurements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was a long time ago.
but yeah, it's
But
you know,
I'd buy a decent trap jaw of that design.
yeah. I mean, he's got the neat mouth,
He's
very
got
colorful.
that brutal looking arm.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's funny because it's like this I think Trapjaw will be great for me to sort of sum up like what the show did and my thoughts on it. Because like back in the day, Trapjaw was scary and creepy
Mm-hmm.
because he was this weird dude with a big chomping mouth who could eat anything, and he had a claw arm. You look at him now, and it's just this silly sort of like really sticky robot arm. Like
Yeah,
it's a cylinder. It looks like a pipe. And it's just like what they've done is they've taken how Trapjaw felt,
yeah.
and now they've made him look like that. And they've done that with basically the whole cast, and the things have been updated and changed for a modern
Man at
audience.
Arms is a walking piece of technology. He-Man is just big.
Yeah, I mean he's a big meaty dude. That's kind of his whole deal.
Skeletor gets extra bones here and there, and very nice. Really like the lines of his cowl.
Yeah, I like the lines of his cowl, and I like how expressive they made his skull face. That
Mm-hmm.
was good. And but yeah, I mean everybody sort of like looks the way they felt back in the day because aesthetic tastes have changed and updated.
Everything's very
But
stylized. It's very
yeah,
they took
but
some
yeah,
time
it's
they took some time designing these characters.
yeah. So strong B plus.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
All
seeing
right.
this crossover with the She-Ra Netflix.
Oh yeah, this one conceptually could. Yeah, it's that was one of the things I was going to bring up about Crash. She's, her purple skin thing.
Hmm.
That may or may not be a connection to anything, but there were tons of characters in the old show that had that type of purple, like lavendery skin
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, that is
Especially,
one. Yeah, a lot of the guard,
yeah,
the one guard model, they at least give everybody a bunch of skin tones.
yeah. I think like two of them are like the two goofy ones are like blue and green.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's there's clearly like a bunch of magic people wandering around like in
Hmm.
the old show. So, but yeah,
No,
it's worth a shot.
yeah, I'd say this is well worth a watch, and hopefully, I have despair. I have smacked He-Man around for years now, and I loved He-Man as a kid. I had tons of He-Man as a kid. It was all garbage, but I loved it.
Hmm.
And now it's just like, okay, this is good stuff. So, yeah, watch it. Watch our stuff when we get around to it.
Yeah, we're not gone forever,
No,
but hope you enjoyed our thoughts on a reboot of a cartoon that was around when we were kids.
nope.
If I apologize that we lack any kind of rage or vitriol that might make this monetizable. Have a good night,
Yep.
folks.
Hey, Pipples! Did you like that bit of nonsense? Well, then why don't you click like and subscribe and press that bell or whatever YouTube wants you to do?
You can also do us a big solid by joining our Patreon, where you'll get to join us for live streams, get early access to the newest videos, and other such things.